Imagine this, the golden sunset pouring through your kitchen window, a half-full glass of wine on the table, a big check in your hand. You write the final number enough to pay off your mortgage completely. You take a deep breath, your heart racing, and the house is now fully yours. You imagine sleeping soundly tonight, no worries about bills, free from debt, the end of the financial pressure that has weighed on you for years. It feels like winning something that money cannot measure, true freedom. But let's fast forward 6 months, the alarm of losing your job goes off, the industry you work in collapses. Savings are gone, investments are gone, the house still belongs to you, but the cash to buy groceries, pay for electricity, or fix your car is gone. You stand in your living room staring at walls worth hundreds of thousands, gold trapped in bricks and mortar. But gold cannot feed you. The house is paid off, yet your options are shrinking. This is called a liquidity trap, wealth trapped in assets that cannot be accessed when needed. And the paradox is by chasing emotional security, you actually make yourself more fragile. Many of us were taught growing up, debt is bad, being debt-free is safe, but the modern world with low interest rates, moderate inflation, and access to investment markets tells a different story. A paid-off house does not always equal financial security. Over the next hour, we will explore the math behind mortgages, the hidden risks of paying early, and why liquidity, not zero debt, is the real key to financial safety. Here's the first hook. If you have ever felt relief sending extra payments to your mortgage, get ready. We are going to see the other side of the story, a side rarely taught in school or talked about by popular culture. We will go through real examples, concrete numbers, simulations that show the most common financial decisions that are often misunderstood, paying off a mortgage faster than necessary. By the end of this chapter, you will understand why a debt-free house is often an emotional trophy, while true freedom comes from having options, flexibility, and control over your own money. Most people pay off their mortgage early not because of numbers, but because of feelings. The word debt triggers fear, guilt, a need to be responsible. It feels like the safe choice. We grow up hearing the same story. Debt is bad. Free of debt means safe. If you are debt-free, you have achieved financial adulthood, emotional security, peace of mind. This made sense for previous generations. When interest rates were high, inflation was unpredictable, and paying off debt fast could literally save your family financially. But today, the math is different. Mortgages at 3, 4, or 5% are cheap in today's market. Paying them off aggressively is like putting your money in a low-yield savings account with early withdrawal penalties. And yet, the fear of debt drives a psychological tax. People willingly sacrifice potential gains to sleep well at night, choosing comfort over optimization. Paying extra toward your mortgage is often an emotional decision disguised as financial discipline. It feels virtuous, responsible, the right thing to do. But we need to redefine risk. Most people think risk is the amount of money they owe. True risk is losing access to cash, the flexibility to survive unexpected events. When you aggressively pay down a mortgage, that money disappears into the house, equity grows, but liquidity dies, trapped in walls that cannot cover an emergency. Compare this to someone who keeps their mortgage and invests extra money. Cash in the bank grows, emergencies are covered, opportunities remain open, stress is lower because options exist. By understanding the psychology behind debt, you can separate emotion from math, realize that paying off a low-interest mortgage early may feel safe, but it can actually make you financially fragile. Let's talk about money in motion. The way banks make billions without breaking a sweat. They borrow from you at almost nothing, then lend it back at higher rates. The difference is their profit. Simple, almost invisible. For example, your savings account might earn 0.5%, while the bank lends someone else money at 6%. That spread is their revenue, pure leverage in action. Now imagine if you could do the exact same thing in reverse. If you have a mortgage at 4%, but you can invest extra cash at 8%, the difference, for percent, becomes your profit, free money created by smart positioning. Let's make it concrete. You have $100,000 extra. You can either pay down a 4% mortgage or invest it in the market earning 8%. Paying the mortgage saves $4,000 a year in interest. Investing earns $8,000. The difference is $4,000 every single year. Over decades, that difference compounds, grows exponentially, turns into hundreds of thousands, even millions. By paying down the mortgage, you are essentially firing your best employee, leverage, and doing all the work yourself. This is financial arbitrage, using cheap debt to amplify your wealth. Banks do it constantly, and you can too. But most people give up that opportunity because of fear, the fear of debt, the comfort of being fully paid. Keeping a mortgage while investing creates options, liquidity, and flexibility. Emergencies can be covered, opportunities seized, stress minimized. Your money works harder than just sitting in your house. Many people worrying, what if the market crashes? What if I lose my job? What if my investment fails? The truth is, risk is not the loan. Risk is losing access to cash. If you have liquid investments, you can survive any crisis. You can pay your mortgage without touching the principal. This is why paying off a mortgage early can be mathematically inefficient. The emotional comfort is high, but the cost in lost opportunities is often much higher. The trade-off is clear when you see it in numbers. So the lesson here is powerful. A low-interest mortgage is not a burden. It's a tool. Leverage is a tool. Liquidity is a tool. Paying down a mortgage aggressively is often a decision driven by emotion, not math. And knowing this can change the way you build wealth. Now let's focus on risk, the kind most people ignore. Your house is an asset, yes, but it's not cash. It cannot be spent immediately when life throws a curveball. Imagine losing your job, or facing a sudden medical bill, or a car breaking down. A paid-off house looks safe on paper, but it cannot pay for groceries, electricity, or repairs. Liquidity is the real safety net. Cash in the bank, investments you can access, money that moves when you need it. That is what protects you in a crisis. Many people confuse safety with zero debt. They feel secure because the mortgage is gone, but the true risk is having no accessible funds to cover emergencies. Equity is dead money, trapped in bricks and mortar. It grows silently over decades, but cannot pay the mechanic or cover a sudden expense. Compare this to someone who keeps a low-interest mortgage, but invests their extra cash. They have liquidity. They can cover emergencies. They can seize opportunities. Stress is lower because options exist. Keeping the mortgage allows the money to work in parallel. The mortgage remains a low-cost liability, while investments grow in the background, creating optionality and resilience. People often overlook this. They see a paid-off house as ultimate safety, but in reality, it can create fragility. The house is valuable, yes, but when you need cash, it is frozen. True financial security is not about how much you owe or don't owe. It's about how quickly you can access cash without penalty or loss. Liquidity is the real measure of safety. So if you want to sleep well at night, don't obsess over zero debt, obsess over flexibility, options, and liquidity. A paid-off house may feel safe, but cash in your hands is freedom. Now let's talk about one of the most powerful forces in personal finance, inflation, the silent partner of debt, your friend if you hold a mortgage, your enemy if you hoard cash. When you take out a 30-year fixed mortgage, your principal and interest payments are locked. They never change, while the value of money declines year after year. This is time arbitrage at work. For example, Paying $2,000 a month today might feel like a lot, but 20 years from now, assuming 3% annual inflation, that same payment will feel like $800 in today's terms. Essentially, you are paying back the bank with cheaper dollars over time. Inflation is eating away at your debt automatically. Without you lifting a finger, your real cost goes down every year. If you pay off the mortgage early, you destroy this advantage. You are giving the bank your most valuable dollars now instead of letting them depreciate over decades. It's a gift you don't need to give. This is where leverage and time arbitrage come together. Letting inflation erode your low-interest debt while your investments compound creates a scenario where your wealth grows faster than your liabilities. Many people don't realize this. They see paying off the mortgage as a risk-free victory, but in reality, it's a loss of opportunity. You are replacing a cheap liability with an unproductive asset. Your money stops working. Imagine taking that extra $1,000 a month instead of sending it to the mortgage company, putting it into a low-cost index fund earning historical average returns of 10% over 15 years. That $1,000 becomes hundreds of thousands. Keep the mortgage for the full 30 years and continue investing. At the end of the period, you could have nearly $2 million in investments. Compared to a house that appreciates slowly, the difference is staggering. The numbers are clear. The math doesn't lie. Inflation and time are powerful allies, and when you understand how to use them, you see that low-interest mortgage debt is not a burden. It is a strategic tool. Paying it off early is often an emotional decision, not a financial optimization. Let's talk about opportunity cost, the invisible cost of paying off your mortgage early. Every extra dollar sent to principal is a dollar that could have been invested, growing silently over decades. Imagine you pay an extra $1,000 a month to your mortgage. It feels responsible, virtuous. Dave Ramsey would be proud. Your house will be paid off faster, your stress lower. But the numbers tell another story. That same $1,000 invested in an S&P 500 index fund, assuming historical 10% returns, grows exponentially over time. At the end of 15 years, you could have $400,000. But let's continue. You keep the mortgage for the full 30 years. Keep investing the same $1,000. By the end of 30 years, your investments could reach nearly $2 million, while your house appreciates at a slower rate, maybe $800,000. The difference, over $1 million, is the cost of emotional comfort, the price of peace of mind, trading potential wealth for the feeling of being debt-free today. Many people fail to see how lifestyle creeps in. When the mortgage is gone, extra money often disappears into vacations, upgrades, new cars, boats, experiences that feel justified, instead of investments that grow quietly in the background. Keeping the mortgage enforces a forced savings discipline. The payment reminds you to budget, to invest deliberately, to control consumption. Your surplus grows intentionally, not absorbed unconsciously by lifestyle inflation. Paying off a house early may feel like freedom, but in practice, it can trap you in a slower wealth trajectory. Cash flows are gone, and your options in emergencies or investment opportunities shrink dramatically. Wealth is not just about what you own. It's about what you can use, where your money works for you, and how your decisions today compound over decades to create real financial power. The lesson is clear. Emotional decisions like rushing mortgage payoff may make you feel responsible, but they often destroy the most valuable financial resource you have, your ability to invest, leverage, and grow wealth over time. Now let's talk about the hidden advantages of keeping a mortgage. Beyond just numbers and investments, the first is tax considerations, which many people overlook. In the past, mortgage interest was a huge deduction, a strong incentive to keep debt. Today, with higher standard deductions, fewer people itemize. but the math still matters for high-income earners. For those who do itemize, the government essentially subsidizes part of your mortgage interest. If your rate is 4% and you are in a 25% tax bracket, your effective rate drops to around 3%, making the mortgage even cheaper. This lowers the hurdle for investing, the cost of holding debt decreases, while your investments can grow at higher rates, turning a low-interest mortgage into a free financial tool. Next, let's consider asset protection, something most people never think about. A house with high equity can become a target for lawsuits or creditors. A fully paid-off house looks wealthy on paper. With a mortgage, the bank technically owns a portion of the home, reducing its attractiveness to creditors. Your real wealth remains partially hidden, while legally protected by the structure of debt. Low-interest debt is also a strategic tool for corporations, governments, and the wealthy. They use it to amplify returns, maintain liquidity, and shield assets. It's not a burden. It's a mechanism to grow and protect wealth. Many homeowners follow outdated advice, pay off the house as fast as possible, thinking it guarantees safety. But in reality, they are giving up leverage, liquidity, and protection, sacrificing long-term financial advantage for short-term comfort. Even ignoring taxes and legal considerations, the combination of low-interest debt and disciplined investing allows for optionality, flexibility, and a way to control your own financial destiny without overexposing yourself to risk. The key takeaway: a mortgage is not a liability to fear. It can be a strategic asset, a tool for wealth creation, tax efficiency, and asset protection. Paying it off early is often a choice driven by emotion, not by optimal strategy. Now let's dive into risk, the one word that scares most homeowners. Many people think debt equals danger, but true risk is losing access to cash when you need it most. Market volatility is real. Stocks can fall, investments can shrink, and that can be terrifying if all your money is tied up in a house that cannot generate cash. But when you keep a low-interest mortgage and invest in liquid assets, you create a synthetic payoff. Your investments cover your mortgage, emergencies, and life expenses, even if the market dips temporarily. For example, if you have $500,000 invested, earning just 4% in dividends, that $20,000 a year can cover mortgage payments without touching the principal. In other words, you become effectively debt-free in practical terms. Your assets cover your liabilities, but you retain control of your principal, flexibility, and liquidity. This is financial independence, the ability to manage risk, maintain options, and sleep at night knowing that your wealth is working for you, not locked in a house. Many people panic about market downturns, thinking paying off the mortgage early is safer. But the reality is a paid-off house does not protect against emergencies, job loss, or unexpected expenses. Liquidity is the real hedge against uncertainty. Having investments you can access without penalty creates stability, even in volatile markets, allowing you to stay the course and benefit from long-term growth. By combining low-interest debt with disciplined investing, you effectively create a synthetic payoff, a system where your mortgage is covered, your cash flow is secure, and your wealth grows uninterrupted. The lesson is clear. Risk is not debt. Risk is immobility, inability to access resources when needed, and keeping a mortgage while investing allows you to manage risk while maximizing growth and control. Now, after all the math, psychology, and strategy, it's time to be practical. Not every mortgage is the same, and sometimes paying it off early does make sense. The first exception is high-interest debt. If your mortgage rate is 8, 9%, or higher, paying it down is a guaranteed return, higher than most investments, a risk-free win. Another exception is personal discipline. If you know you will spend extra cash on vacations, luxury items, or lifestyle inflation, paying the mortgage early acts as a forced savings account. In other words, if leaving money in your account leads to reckless spending, the emotional benefit of mortgage payoff outweighs potential investment gains. Some people may have a low tolerance for market volatility. If seeing investments fluctuate daily keeps you awake at night, peace of mind might be worth the small opportunity cost. Even in these exceptions, the key is intentionality, making the choice consciously, understanding the trade-offs, not following societal pressure or outdated advice. For most disciplined investors with low-interest mortgages, the numbers favor investing over early payoff. But it's not universal. Context matters. Personal circumstances matter. Always consider liquidity first. If paying off the mortgage leaves you cash poor, unable to cover emergencies, it's a bad move, regardless of emotional satisfaction. A balanced approach might include keeping the mortgage, but paying extra only up to a comfortable cash buffer, combining leverage, liquidity, and financial security. The practical takeaway: paying off a mortgage early is not inherently wrong, but for most people today, low-interest debt is a tool, a strategic asset, and rushing to zero can be a costly mistake. Now it's time to bring it all together. After exploring psychology, risk, inflation, opportunity cost, and leverage, the central lesson is clear: freedom comes from liquidity, not just paying off debt. A paid-off house is a trophy. It feels safe, it looks impressive on paper, but it does not protect you from emergencies, job loss, or unexpected expenses. Real safety comes from having cash you can access. The most important step you can take is to stop sending extra payments to the mortgage by default. Redirect that money into investments, into liquid accounts that grow over time, building a true safety net. Open a separate brokerage account, call it your Freedom Fund. Set up automatic contributions for the same amount you would have sent to your mortgage. Let compounding do the heavy lifting. Over 10, 20, 30 years, the difference becomes undeniable. Investments grow exponentially. Liquidity allows you to handle emergencies, seize opportunities, and create real financial independence. Discipline is key. Treat your investments like a mandatory payment, not optional spending. The mortgage remains your tool. The extra money works for you, not just disappears into bricks. Remember the 3 pillars: leverage, liquidity, and time. Using low-interest debt, investing consistently, and letting inflation work in your favor creates wealth far beyond what paying off a mortgage early can achieve. Avoid outdated advice from previous generations. Zero debt is not always freedom. Strategic debt combined with disciplined investing is how the wealthy build options, resilience, and long-term power. Take action today. Calculate your mortgage rate. Compare it to expected investment returns. Understand your personal risk tolerance, and build your strategy around liquidity and compounding, not just emotional comfort. In the end, a mortgage is not your enemy. It's a tool, a low-cost liability that, when used correctly, amplifies wealth, protects assets, and gives you real freedom, liquidity, and control over your life. Remember this: invest wisely and let your money work for you.